5 gamer. So 7 Eastern, by the way. I made the mistake of thinking it was 6 Eastern. I don't know why, but that's my bad. And
no, yes. I have to tell you that now that I'm thinking about it, it doesn't seem like an off the wall thing for you to. I have somewhere in the back of my brain that maybe it was scheduled for that earlier.
Something threw me off, and also they usually do it differently on MLK Day, so I'm a little surprised. But this is what we got.
I know that hockey is an hour earlier. Maybe I doubt that you'd have confused that though.
No. But I'm glad I'm at least not. I'm reading from the right games. I think that it was yesterday's slate that I was looking at again by accident. I'm just getting I'm still using SaberSim. I'm not a novice, but I'm like a little bit like I make a mistake every now and then. Anyway, but 5 gamer, not a lot of great tournaments out there. It's more football focused today, as you guys can imagine, because we have another day of 2 playoff games, and we'll talk about that after this. Sheets, anything to jump in before we?
No, the usual NBA slate with not a shred of value, at least right now.
That's right.
And like right now, I'm looking at usually when you rate guys by point per dollar, you get like someone under 5K.
Yeah.
And then we haven't seen any of it. So now you reduce to something under 6K. But I have to say that I don't even have anybody under 6K that's like reasonable until like my 20th ranked guy. And so he's 24. I have a 24% owned guy who's rates at 4.7x, and we'll get to him. I mean, then you're going to get to, there is actually a $4,100 guy, but it's not like he looks that great. He's 25% owned. So it's your typical, 2024 slate where, there's going to be bad value that you have to play until good value shows up.
Absolutely. And there are some Q tags out there. So we'll keep an eye on what's going to happen. For those of you guys, I'm not sure exactly what time I'll be back, so I'm not planning to play NBA today, just in case. I will be playing football, and I'll post my stuff in the Discord and on the site. But just wanted to give you guys a heads up. I'm not playing NBA today, so I will. I'll go through my thoughts, but not currently planning to play myself.
Eric is playing NBA today.
Eric is definitely going to be playing. All right, so Chicago and Cleveland. What do you got here, Sheep?
Let me tell you something. I'll share one of my quotes from my upbringing, so to speak. So John DeMott, who has been featured in these reports before, I'll get to another John DeMott quote when it's appropriate. John DeMott is a guy I used to go to the track with the Meadowlands when we were growing up, and he had a comment where I would say, "Hey, you going to the track tonight?" He says, "Is it open?" So that's the question of whether I'm going to be playing NBA tonight. Is it open?
Yeah, it's open. Yeah. It makes sense.
All right. Chicago, Cleveland. I got that first.
Yeah. What do you got here?
All right, so I have Donovan Mitchell at a pretty reasonable ranking rated, compared to everybody else, and I have him pretty unowned. So yeah, that would be my play from this game, I guess. Let me look at some of these kind of weird values. If anybody shows up from here, Jared Allen, yuck, maybe, I don't know. Kobe White, 7,200. I'm not really getting that. What's Caruso nowadays? Is he going to be 50%? No, he's 15% owned. He doesn't look that great either. So yeah, I guess if anything, I would take a shot with Mitchell, but without even looking at projection, I presume we have to keep playing Zach LaVine too. So I will put Zach LaVine and Donovan Mitchell as my 2 plays in this game for now.
Yeah, I don't mind LaVine I think he's going to be contrarian a little bit, and we've seen him he had a lousy game the last one, but he's been more active and more as a creator role. The rebounding has been up since he got back. I don't mind any of LaVine, Vooch, or actually any of the 4 from Chicago, but I don't have the exact we need to play. There's nobody who stands out as we must play this guy. Everybody seems sort of fine. LaVine would be my preferred one. And on the Cleveland side, I agree that Donovan Mitchell, I think, is a very strong play, and I have no problem using him in any format. So I am on the same page, not really getting to anything else on the Cleveland side. If I had to make a gun to my head type of thing, I would take a shot on Karis LeVert. But overall, it's probably just going to be Mitchell or nothing for me on the Cleveland side. All right, Boston and Toronto.
Yeah, okay, so lose track of which team this guy is on, but so we have immediate revenge. Even though it's on the road or home or whatever, we have Dennis Schroeder I literally don't know who he's playing. So he's playing for Toronto now, right? Playing for Toronto against Boston. He's one of those shitty $5,400 values that's showing up. So that looks pretty good. What else? Was this the Thad Young game, or is that a different one? Hold on. Who does Thad Young play for? Because Thad Young is the value that's showing up as the kind of 25% on $4,100 guy that maybe it's a little scary to play. So let's take a look at his. He was getting minutes a couple of games ago, and then he was really popular. And let me just see how he's been doing. Yeah, so wow, he had 29 minutes, and then they played him pretty heavily in this next game, and then they played him pretty heavily in this game after that too, and he only played 12 minutes. Yeah, I mean.
Well, that game, I think you just crossed that game off. It's a 32-point blowout. Just basically ignore that.
I guess. I still think it has a range of outcomes.
Yeah.
I prefer to play different value if it shows up, but that's what's showing up for now. Tatum, 9,700. He's looks like a Donovan Mitchell type of play. Like similar price, certainly has a ceiling, going to be low owned, maybe. And then here we go. So. All right. Quickly, Barrett, they're both around the same price. They're both about 20% on. Okay, so I guess that's what we're going to have to do. Like, probably one of these Toronto guys between Quickly, Barrett, Schroeder, and Thad Young are going to be the value right now. I don't know if it's going to end up being that way. So right now, I guess if I do a Saberson build, I'll probably end up getting 2 Toronto guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, starting on the Boston side, I don't mind Tatum. I have a slight preference for Donovan Mitchell personally. If you had to pick guys at the same price point, I like Mitchell a little bit better. I think Kristaps Porzingis is probably my favorite Celtic. If I had to pick anybody, he'd probably be the one if it's a nice price wise. I don't mind any of them. It's not a bad matchup. So any of Brown, Porzingis, and Tatum, I think are all totally fine. But I personally would go KP. And on the Toronto side, I like Barrett the best, and I have no problem with a little bit of Schroeder. The problem is, like, if you play Schroeder and Young, you sort of need things to go specifically your direction, because if you think about the reason why Thad Young is fragile is because Schroeder plays a bunch of minutes and so does Gary Trent off the bench. So it's kind of hard for both of them to get the minutes. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Even though they're different positions. So like Siakam, they can move to the 5 in certain cases. They're also, you might see some Chris Boucher minutes. Chris Boucher would be the get weird play if I was going to take a shot, but I don't even have all that much interest in that, to be honest with you. So Thad Young, one guy we didn't talk about Jonte Porter. He's been the direct backup, and he played a ton of minutes in the blowout last game. He played 31 minutes. He put up 34 fantasy points. He's 4,200. That's your pivot, I think, your natural pivot off of Thad Young. I don't think you have to play Thad Young or Jonte Porter, but I do think that you could play Porter at what's the ownership going to be on him? I'm guessing it's going to be a fraction of what Thad Young. Yeah, they're basically projected exactly the same by SaberSim, and yet actually Porter's projected better by SaberSim, and Thad Young 25 to 23%. Jonte Porter currently projected at 7%. So I definitely don't mind the idea of playing Porter over Young if you wanted to go that direction.
Okay. Is he a rookie, Porter?
I know nothing about him whatsoever, except for that he's been playing lately for them. I haven't looked into it yet.
Yeah, he played 30 minutes in the blowout. All right. I like it.
All right. So next up, I'm guessing it's Miami, Brooklyn, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Bridges 7,300, Claxton 7,200. Waiting for value to show up. Hoping it does. What about Miami? Let me just see if I can get Miami. Bam. They played last night too, right? This Bam's okay. All right, so we've got to come up with something. So I would say Michael Bridges got multiple position eligibility. I think he'll show up as okay. So Michael Bridges would be my play for this one.
Yeah, this is to me a question of whether or not Butler and Kevin Love play. So until we know about that, it's hard for me to like anything on Miami. But if they're out, I have no problem going right back to Bam or Hero. Even Lowry, I think, is reasonable at on this particular slate. You could maybe even see what happens with Caleb. Caleb Martin might even pop a little bit. So really, Butler and Kevin Love are big Q tags that I really don't know what to do without knowing whether they're playing.
Is this just an easy slate just to play one of Thad Young or Porter, and that'll be the end of it?
I don't think so. I mean, there's definitely ways that I don't think you have to play either of them, to be honest with you. But I think that it's gonna depend on who's playing or not. Like, I mean, honestly, and that sounds pretty lame, but yeah, I think that that's a logical thing to do. But I don't think you have to by any means. Especially because I think that something will open up, and we just know how this works.
Yeah, but what other bigs are there that can play in Toronto?
Boucher.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Okay.
And you don't need to play big against the Celtics, so they basically. I mean, Porzingis is basically playing like on offense. He's more guard like than he is big man like. Although he's posted up more this year. Anyway, on the Brooklyn side, for me, I think Bridges is the most obvious if you had to pick one, but nothing that I love. Dennis Smith Jr. I think is an interesting tournament play, but I'm not crazy about the ownership. And Dorian Finney-Smith is a guy you could consider as a value. So those would be the guys I'm a little bit interested in, but that you're going to hear that a lot from me this morning because there's nobody who I'm overwhelmingly interested in on like this whole slate. I feel like everybody, I'm just like, oh yeah, that's fine. But
one other guy who's out here is Jacques.
So it depends on Butler and Love, though.
Yeah, and if you get Butler, well, you know what? Butler is out. He's not traveling with the team.
Oh, I've got him still officially as questionable. Well, there you go.
Sorry. It says he will travel with the team. Sorry about that.
I actually have Hawkins is out.
Yeah, Hawkins I have is out.
Yeah. So that's why I'm waiting for the Love and Butler thing because I do think that would open up potentially Jovic, potentially Caleb Martin, potentially Hero, potentially Bam. Like all of those guys are definitely strongly in play, especially if Butler and Love are out. As it stands right now, I think with Butler like just basically swapping in for Hawkins, I don't really think you're getting much value on the Miami side. All right, we can get into the next one, which is Indiana. Is there any Utah that what you have?
Yeah, so here I'm getting 30% owned Jordan Clarkson, and this is a game with at least a total, right? So Clarkson, Markkanen, they both look pretty good. I'm not getting too much Indiana as far as projection goes, except for, say, Miles Turner. I guess all these guys are priced pretty fairly nowadays. But, yeah, I think both those Utah guys make sense. So Clarkson and Markkanen. Clarkson, again, he's cheap enough where, in the absence of value, you can play him. So that's why he's coming in 30% owned, and it makes some sense.
Yep. And so I actually think that Indiana is very interesting tonight. And it's a little weird to see just Utah as a 7-point favorite over Indiana or anybody, but it's fair. I mean, they haven't been the same without Halliburton. But you have Nesmith questionable on the Indy side. I think that Miles Turner is totally in play regardless. I actually think he's a pretty strong play, so I do like him. I think Bruce Brown and Nembhard are both kind of interesting, and the fact that no one's going to play them or they're not getting much ownership makes me have a little more interest in Bruce Brown than I do Nembhard, but I think they're both interesting enough. And I think that for large field stuff, I would take a shot on McConnell and Benedict Mathurin. So I think this is a good matchup. So I actually have I would be overweight all these Indiana guys. I think Clarkson is completely like the guy just torches everything at home. He's a totally solid play. And if you want to go Collins, you want to go Markkanen, all of those guys seem just okay to me. Clarkson would be the one that I want the most. And I think you're going to get a lot of ownership on the Utah side. So that's why I wanted to mention the running backs on the other side. Keontae George is a potential value. You could use at 4,900. Kelly Olynyk, obviously his minutes fluctuate, but kind of interesting. I'm curious when they're going to start giving Kessler a little bit more than 20 minutes. This guy's supposed to be the future of their team, and he's just not playing the minutes right now. But man, this is the kind of slate I might take a shot on that 5K price tag and just hope things work out my way. Just put it that way.
So just another little announcement. For those who didn't notice, there's actually 3 different NBA slates today. There's like a 1 p.m., then there's like a 3 p.m., and then the 7 p.m. So that's why there might be some confusion over what goes where. So we are just talking about the 5-game 7 p.m. slate now.
Yep. All right. OKC at my Lakers. We have a huge Q tag in this one, which is Shea. Really don't know what to do not knowing about Shea. And then obviously,
obviously, what you're supposed to do is probably wait, right? I mean,
so how do you wait though?
Well, I mean, you could wait past the Chicago-Cleveland game at least.
But you might not go until like 10 Eastern.
Yeah. Well, what can you stick in there? You know, if he's out, then then you're going to have, I mean, Jalen Williams, Giddey.
Yep.
Those two main guys, I guess. Is there any just direct?
Keyshawn Wallace.
Yeah, one of those guys.
And Isaiah Joe probably will all look decent, as will Holmgren, Jalen. As you mentioned, Williams and Giddey would be the two natural ones. Lou Dort, even everybody would just get a massive boost.
I think he's playing, by the way.
Okay.
I mean, that would be my guess. I mean, he got hurt during the game, but he came back and actually finished the game.
Yeah.
And now it's like his only. Is this one of his few games at Lakers? I mean, unless he's really hurt,
he's tough and he's making a run at the MVP. So I think more times than not, he's going to play here.
And if he plays, I want to play him.
Yeah, if he plays, I think he's a tremendous play.
And on the other side, I would listen. It's impossible to do right now, but if I could play Shea and AD together somehow, I'm down with something like that.
Yeah, I like that would be my natural lean in this game as well. I do like, assuming that everything's good. Shea followed by Jalen Williams, then Holmgren would be my favorites in that order. I don't mind Lou Dort at all at 4,900. I think that actually is a very reasonable guy you can play in this matchup. He should be out there for more minutes than usual a little bit, and I like all three of those guys. Shea, Williams, Dort as my favorites, and then Holmgren would be the other one I would consider. I like Davis would be my favorite of the Lakers. And I think you can take a shot on Christian Wood anytime. I have no problem with the idea of playing a low-owned Christian Wood. And there's always a ceiling there. Taurean Prince is another one of the value-ish plays, but I probably don't want to do it on this particular slate. So it's really going to come down to later and what value we have. Hopefully I'm back from my MRI and we can go over things. I'll be able to go over it with you, but I'm not 100% sure yet that I'll be around at 6 Eastern.
Yeah, so like for example, I mean, you put in Shea and Davis, and even if you put in Thad Young, I mean, or the other one, you're still going to need one more bit of value to show up. You know, so listen, we'll see how it goes. I mean, I don't know who could get ruled out, but listen, if Butler and all these get ruled out, I don't know, maybe like you said, even Jovic is not such a small price at 5,500. You know, maybe it's Jamal Cain season or something like that.
Right. And it's interesting because Shea basically has been crushing. Like he just gets there he's always getting 55. Like it feels like every time. But for some reason, I actually think that the build I would want to get to the most, because there's more of a range of outcomes with Mitchell, but I think there's also a higher ceiling with nobody else really there. Especially if Struss is supposed to come back today, but even still, like they just don't have enough other creators. So I like the idea of trying to get Mitchell and Shea in the same lineup if I can.
You can get Mitchell and Levine. That could be fun.
That could be fun. Yeah, why not? And it's never ideal to play. You don't usually love the Bulls and Cleveland's game to target, but
this is a weak slate. You know, like
it is kind of a weak slate, huh?
I think so.
Yeah, I feel that way at the moment as well. But we probably will get news right as we get off. So beware for that. And we'll jump into a football show next. So good luck to everybody. And hopefully Sheets will be there at 6 Eastern. Hopefully I'll be there as well.
Absolutely.
And